We're in a book slump. I can't say that a book slump is over if I get through one book. The slump could easily slurp us back up. That's what we've been doing instead of reading, buying cups. Hi. Just come out and say it.
We don't know what we're doing.
Well, no, I was gonna say we're in a book slump. Probably like our first actual book slump since starting the channel. Girl, we are in it. And it's honestly really sad. I mean, obviously when you talk about a book slump, it's like not that serious. You're just not in the mood to read. But one, when you want to make content about books, but also when you love reading, it's like your hobby is fighting against you. Like your hobby has abandoned you.
Yeah.
It's how it feels. And it is actually kind of upsetting because we have so many books. Literally what? 2 shelves full of books in our bookcase, full TBR that we could easily read, and then we have Kindle Unlimited, not including libraries as well, and we are just not in the mood for anything. So this video is going to be about getting out of a book slump, our tips and tricks, recommendations, all that kind of stuff, and we're just gonna see if we're able to get out of it. When I think about getting out of a book slump, I feel like the #1 thing is to go to like a tried and true love, a genre, an author, a vibe, maybe like a physical like type of book, whether you like a really floppy, like a paperback. So when I think about the books that we like always just like love, devour, eat right up, I think of A Silly Little Romance or a really good small romantasy. And I say small, but when you say fantasy and small, it normally, they don't actually mean the same thing. When I say small fantasy, I mean like 400-ish pages. Yeah. Trying to get something smaller, something that we can get right into. So possibly a YA fantasy might be the best option because those seem to be smaller and a little bit easier to get through. So we're gonna look and see what we have and come back with some options. But first tip I have is go for a tried and true. Okay,
we found some options.
We found some options, but also I want to clarify I'm a bold-faced liar and I needed to check myself. We actually have 3 full shelves of books that are
not full. The first one's not full, but he's almost full. He's basically full.
Saying it's not full is really just, I mean, yeah, technically, but
technically we can speak like this is good. It's a little more than halfway, okay?
But we have 3, like, let me just show you also, I guess I should just show you what we didn't grab. So up here we have like romance. This is where we pulled one of the books from. And then it kind of goes into these Christmas books that we never actually read. And then it kind of goes into like other like fiction-y kind of stuff. And then on this shelf, we have 2 shelves full of romantasy, fantasy, whatever. But on this shelf, we have books that's like starting a series. And then this is like continuing series that we've already started. So like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever books in a series. That's what we have in terms of options physically. So we have plenty of things to choose from. It's just a matter of finding the right pick. We picked 3 options. And mind you, this is only our first attempt. We're gonna keep going with this video after we read whatever book we're picking here. I can't say that a book slump is over if I get through one book. That doesn't mean anything. First book that we have is actually a book that we just purchased. We had Barnes & Noble gift card and we got this recently. This is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This is a really popular romance. It's like a cowboy,
which we've never read before, so we've got something new, but it sounded interesting.
So it's trying something new, so it might pique our interest, but it's also a silly little romance and small. Next, we have Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. We actually started this book and then put it down as a soft DNF. Not because we weren't into it, but because we actually were reading a million different things.
And we were going off our TBR to read this, and then we were getting behind the videos, so we had to stop this in order to like get back on track.
And that was months ago, and we just didn't pick it back up. So,
but we love the first one.
We love the first one. I think we gave it a 5.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So love the first one. Obviously thought that it was great. So this should be relatively easy to jump back into. So this is a good option. And then we have something we've never tried before. This is Filthy Rich Vampire by Geneva Lee. So this has an added bonus because it's on Kindle Unlimited, but I know that it's about this guy who's like single and he's like the best vampire bachelor, and they kind of have like a high society type situation. And then there's this girl, I believe she's a cellist if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, that sounds
right? I think she's a cellist, but I really can't. I know she's human. And they have like a fake dating situation going on. I don't know where I came up with her being a cellist.
I know, I feel like I would know that.
But I swear she was.
Unless is that the Filthy Rich Fae?
Maybe. I have no idea.
Maybe it's on the Goodreads, like a little synopsis.
I have no idea where I got that she's a cellist from.
But anyways, sounds familiar.
Fake dating. He doesn't want a girl. She's gonna be, fake dating, whatever. So we have 3 good options. I'm really torn actually because I feel like they're all good. I think so we're leaning towards these. I think again we really like Apprentice to the Villain, so we might read this later on, but I'm just kind of in the mood for a new person, like a new author. I feel like it's fun to like go in like a safe direction in terms of the genre, but a new author to give you like a new perspective. So Sam's gonna see if she has access to this because you probably don't, honestly. We're back, she checked, and she doesn't have access to Done and Dusted. Filthy Rich Vampire is what we're gonna pick. So it says When Cellist Thea.
Oh, there it is.
I don't know why I couldn't see that when we were reading it.
I couldn't either. I was reading it too.
We're looking. I think I was looking in the paragraph, but it's the second word. Once we get through this book, like if we love it and we keep reading it, whatever, which we better. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we enjoy our book. We're going to continue on with the video talking about other things to get out of a reading slump because, again, if we just get through this one book, I'm not counting it as the slump being over because that means nothing. The slump could easily slurp us back up. Ew, slurp.
That was a little immersive.
I know, that was really a lot. Sorry. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys again when we have an update because we're gonna make dinner and then probably have like a cozy little reading night and get the vibes going. Oh, we're back! I think it's been 2 days since we filmed that clip and the slump has continued. We haven't read at all. I think I was writing this hoodie, but trust me, it's 2 days later. Maybe it's because, I mean, at this point right now, I still haven't posted my first video back. Maybe that's why I'm like getting overwhelmed, but just the thought of reading, I don't know. I want to, I think.
I want to be in the mood too, but...
Am I in the mood?
Exactly.
I'm like thinking in my head like, oh, it would be so nice to read right now.
But then...
In theory. But I'm just not feeling it, which is unfortunate. Like, I really want to get back into it.
Yeah, I think we just gotta force ourselves.
I know. And then I just think if I force myself into it, then I don't really want to. And then I get in my head and it's just, I really just need to start. I need to not put so much pressure on it. It's literally just a hobby. It's just a hobby. I got this new cup from Michael's craft store. Super random. And go show your cup. It's one of these. It almost looks like the, what is it, Stanley?
Stanley's, yeah.
Yeah, it looks just like it, but it's the Michael's brand. It was $20.
It's so good.
It's so good. It keeps her ice like all day long. It's actually
this is a
really
great
good
color.
She had originally gotten one. It was on clearance. It was $5, but she dropped it. And we don't blame the cup because she dropped it on like from really high up.
Yeah.
Yeah. She dropped it from like here on her and she's what, 5'10" on concrete, and it cracked because, you know, I think anything would crack at that height. Anyway, so she got that and like replaced it, and then I got this cup. That's what we've been doing instead of reading, buying cups. But it's just so funny that we're at a like point in society where we think like, oh, well, if I get a new cup, I'm gonna completely change my water intake. Like, we can't just tell ourselves to drink more water. We have to get like a fun cup. Do we just start reading on camera with you guys right now? Because if I turn this off and be like, so we're gonna get to reading, and you know, we might go to bed. So do I just like force myself to read because you're on camera right now? I've gotten into reading the forewords recently. Before I wasn't ever the type to actually read them. I would just skip past them. But this one says, to Louise, who waited forever for me to write the damn vampire book. That's really funny, actually. Wait a minute. Oh. Oh, this is current. It's 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not current, it's 2025, but you know what I'm saying. It's pretty close.
That is pretty cool.
That is so funny. So I guess he has been asleep for a couple decades. This is only like the second or third page, so it's not really spoilers. But he has an IV drip going with blood to keep him from being like super mad when she woke him up. With his assistant woke him up after a couple decades, and she put an IV in so that he wouldn't be as annoyed and hungry. That's actually really funny.
Yeah.
Why is he naked? It's only page 4 and he's already naked.
It's thrown in.
Hi guys, it's the next morning and we are only just getting to chapter 4. I read a couple pages of it, but that's all I've gotten so far, and I'm actually really liking it. While I'm reading, I'm actually enjoying it. I think I just gotten out of the habit of reading, and because nothing was sounding good, it just like made this reading slump, if that makes sense. So anyways, the book is going good. I'm only on chapter 4, like I said, so it's not like I have too much of an idea. Like I said before, it's about vampires, and there's this cellist who is like a struggling young musician, and she has a gig and she's performing with a couple of the people in like their orchestra group. The main vampire, Julian, is at this like party. All vampires are having this like social gathering, and he sees her, and it kind of reminds me, I mean, obviously I feel like every vampire thing is immediately put towards Twilight and like related to Twilight, but it reminds me of it in the sense that he saw her. Oh, she smells so good. Why did she smell so good? I want to kill her. I want to protect her. I don't know. You know, like that kind of immediate reaction is very, very similar to the way that like Edward responded to Bella. But other than that, it's not really giving me too similar of vibes other than like the fact that they're vampires. I think that interaction was the only thing that really reminds me of it. The goal is to not get too far ahead of Sam, and I don't think she's gonna be able to listen to it today, so I'm not gonna get too far, but I also don't want to lose my groove. So that's what I'm thinking about right now, how to keep reading but not get too far ahead of her and keep in the groove of reading. Anyways, that's my issue. So I'm going to read a little bit more and then talk to you when I get out of work, probably. I like how we did the exact same post. The last time I talked to you was yesterday when I was in the car. When I first got to work, I was chatting with you guys. In terms of the book, it really reminds me of the Never After fractured fairy tale romances, but just with actual fantasy rather than having like fantasy story references. This is actually like vampires and magic and witches and all that kind of stuff meets like current day romance rom-com-y type situation. So if you really like romance and you want to dip into the concept of fantasy, I highly recommend this being what you try, because it's so light on the fantasy. There's no world building. It's relatively simple to get into. The only thing you have to know is like the concept of vampires and concept of witches. Not really much more than that. Right now I'm feeling like it's like a 4. Super exciting. If you do anything that involves like good lighting, or you're someone that is easily not hindered but like really affected by lighting, oh girl, changing your light bulbs and figuring out what type of light bulb you need in your life is really healing for the soul. If you're the kind of person that gets bothered by that kind of stuff. We went to Home Depot today and changed the light, like changed the bulbs for our like over the head lighting that we never ever use. Over the head, overhead, not over the head. Anyways, bye. We finished. Oh my gosh. So it really took me by surprise. I genuinely thought this was going to be a really quick, silly little romance, that there's probably going to be a bunch of smut in here, and then it was going to be really simple, maybe a little cringy, or I don't know. I just had low expectations, and we ended up giving this a 4.25. I thought it was just going to be only romance, but it ended up being way more about like the vampire culture, vampire lifestyle, their traditions, their values, the kind of like turmoil that's going on in their like political world, which I wasn't expecting at all. I totally was expecting for it to just be like, I'm a vampire and I'm so gorgeous, and for her to be like, you are so gorgeous, please fight me, and then for that to be what their whole thing was about. But it really wasn't. It was more than that. So I'm very impressed, very surprised. In regards to the reading slump, obviously I really like this book, but I am still feeling like I am not quite out of being in a reading slump. There's definitely a pull to not pick up another book still, and I don't know, I think it also kind of makes me more nervous when I really enjoy a book. The next tip I have, obviously when I said this book, I was talking about reading books that were in the genres that you like, or a genre that you feel like you can pick up really quickly. So for us, that meant a little fantasy, a little romance, and that's what really helped with this book. It definitely put us in the right direction. The next tip I have for a reading slump is going towards books that are written by authors that you already know you like. So not even necessarily books in the series that you've already started, because that can be a little hard, especially if you stopped reading the series for a reason, whether it was putting you in a slump or you didn't like how it was going or whatever the case may be. So it's not necessarily that, but just reading a book from an author that you already know you like their writing style. You already trust the way that they write their stories. Not that all authors like have the same kind of like lines in every book, but you kind of get a feel for either they're really crazy with their plot twists, or everything has a happy ending, or you know it's going to be emotional and you want that. You know, whatever the case may be, you can kind of guess where the author's going to take it. So I highly recommend doing that. So super sad. We didn't update right after we, like, the last clip that you saw. We started reading the Foxglove King. The next clip that was supposed to go like into this vlog got corrupted and it's not gonna work. So there's just something wrong with my SD cards. I ordered new ones and they're coming soon, but I had a couple SD cards that started to fail on me, and I think it's because I was leaving them out and they were probably getting ruined, like damaged. So not gonna do that anymore. Update on Foxglove King. We finished it. We finished it. We rated a 4.25, and then
we started the next book.
Yeah, then we started the second one to that series, and I finished it. Sam is like what, halfway through?
I think I'm 63% through or something like that.
Yeah, so she's chugging. And I could have picked up the vlog again, but we were just so in it. I didn't want to like scare the flow away, because as you guys know, the whole point of this video is to get through our book slump, and I just felt like I didn't want to speak about it, and I just wanted to keep chugging. Because we finally got in a good groove and we really like the books that we were reading. But in terms of like this, like the books that we read in this video, Filthy Rich Vampire, we ended up getting a 4.25. The Foxglove King, I gave a 4.25. And the Hemlock Queen, which is the second book in that series, I also gave a 4.25. So I just feel like we had a really productive little reading chugging going on. I can easily say that our reading slump is over, which is really exciting because we have so many books we want to read and a lot of videos I want to make for this channel, and not being able to read was definitely causing us trouble with that. So I'm glad that's over. But I did want to say a couple tips and tricks that we didn't necessarily reference in this video because we got out of it pretty quickly, which is good. But some things I said. So the first tip I had was to go into like a tried and true, whether it be like a genre that you really like or a type of book you like, whether it be like physical or your Kindle or whatever. Like go through with something that you already know you love. And then the second tip that we had was going to an author that you already know you love, and not necessarily going into a series you've already started reading, but another book by an author that you've already read, not necessarily part of the same series, because you probably stopped reading that series for a reason. So I wouldn't necessarily pick that. I would just pick an author that you know you like. The other tips that I have, one be if you have anyone in your life that likes reading, is thinking about reading, anything like that, a buddy that you can get, a book club, an online book club, anything like that, I highly recommend. One, finding a person that you like reading with. I happen to be engaged to mine, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have to read with your partner, whoever in your life likes reading. But if you don't have anyone in your life that likes reading, I highly recommend doing like an online book club situation. I am on Fable. I haven't started a book club yet. I'm waiting for like the channel to grow more to do that, but I've looked at some of the book clubs on there. I haven't joined any yet because I do have my built-in book club person, but I highly recommend looking on Fable because there's so many different book clubs that you can join. And obviously it being online, like you don't have to worry about talking to people necessarily. You don't really have to engage more than what you're comfortable with. House. Yeah. So if that's something that like you wouldn't want to join, like a in-person book club, or you're shy or whatever the case may be, I highly recommend doing that because it'll make it fun. You could always unsubscribe, get out of it, turn off your phone. Like you're not really committing to anything. Other stuff, getting into like the book vibe. So whether it be going to a coffee shop, going to a library, going to a place that sets the right vibe, or doing like if you want to stay home and making your room cozy, or like whatever you need to read. Everyone has a different like reading style. So for us, it just depends. Sometimes I want like a light, airy, window open, birds chirping, forest preserve type vibe, and sometimes we're reading a book that we want to have it be like kind of dark and candlelit with like music playing. It really just depends. So whatever mood you think of first, I just dive straight into it. That is what helps us the most. Like when we're really trying to get into the reading spirit, turning on like our candle, like lighting up our candles, setting the vibes in our room and making it like an atmospheric experience has completely changed our ability to like get right into books.
Yes. Yeah, just like different from your normal. Definitely.
Yes, definitely different from like the vibe of your sleeping or the vibe of you like getting work done. Something different. And then the other thing I would say is to get excited about all the other things that are involved with books. So subscribe to Kindle Unlimited. Get into going to your public library and like really deep dive there. Really look through your Libby or the apps that come with your library. Anything like that, where even if you're not necessarily actively reading, but just getting yourself in that headspace, or even watching a book creator, something like that. Or there's a lot of book Instagram, looking at bookish on Pinterest, just making it a lot more than the act of physically reading. And then I think the very last tip I would say, which doesn't necessarily always work, I have found that this tip can sometimes do the adverse effect. That's why I'm saving it for last. But trying something completely new. I leave this for the end because sometimes I feel like if you try something new and you don't like it, it could really throw you in a book slump. It can like send you spiraling. But if you tried everything else, I highly recommend trying something new. And go for something that is low risk. Like I don't recommend going to the bookstore and buying the most expensive hardcover of a book you wanted to try and going that route, because then if it ends poorly, you're not going to want to read it anymore. If you like, again, try like a Kindle Unlimited subscription, or try an audiobook for the first time, or try reading in public for the first time, something like that, where it's like a small risk and great reward situation, I highly recommend doing that.
I will say audiobook is definitely a good way to get you into reading. Yeah. You can just have it on the background while you're doing something. Because sometimes I feel like it's just hard to get into the initial part of the book. But once you're in it, it's so much easier. Yeah. So definitely try that too.
And I highly recommend don't just swear off audiobooks if you get a weird
narrator.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I have a really hard time with narrators, where I would rather listen to, if you have Kindle Unlimited or you read a book on Kindle, they have like an automated robot voice.
The halls were dark and deserted as
that voice. I would prefer listening to that robot voice over like a weird narrator. Whereas Sam, for the longest time, now she can listen to that, but for the longest time, like she would refuse to listen to it that way and would rather listen to like a cringy narrator. So everyone has their like different ability to be able to handle whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend just trying an audiobook and swearing it off if you get a weird narrator. Either you need some, because there's like audiobooks that have like acting in it or music.
Yeah,
or like
I didn't know that.
Sounds, you know, like there's those kinds of audiobooks, and then there's just narrators where they have just the one person talking the entire time for multiple characters. They have it where we read Ninth House, and that audiobook had 2 different characters for like the male and female main characters, which made it so much easier to like distinguish who was who. So you really just gotta find your niche, your specific type of audiobook. So I highly recommend all those tips and tricks that we said. That's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and bye!